something was rising, and it definitely wasn't the shield hero in this episode of My Dress Up Darling. Like, I guess in one way we could say that Gojo has big peepee energy. Okay, jokes aside though, can we talk about this episode of My Dress Up Darling? Like, legit, this is like what happened? Like, what just happened with this episode? There was so much tension in that darkness scene, like in the room in the dark when Marin and Gojo were holding each other, the heavy breathing. I'm just like, is this going on? Is this actually happening? Am I watching really an episode of My Dress Up Darling? I was questioning that while I was watching this episode, and it's just like, whoa, what an episode. Like, that skyrocketed their potential relationship going forward, and I am really looking forward to their conversation in the upcoming episode of how they're going to discuss what happened, because there's no way Marin didn't notice the whole thing going on with Gojo in that moment, but also there is no way that they can't just talk about them literally holding each other that close in that type of setting while hearing everything through the other room. There's just no way. I am looking forward to seeing how they talk about that, because both of them were embarrassed by the end of the episode, which says a lot, because Marin is normally not one to get openly embarrassed in front of Gojo. So let's just talk about, this episode and kind of how self-aware it was. So there is a scene in particular that happens in the middle half of the episode, towards the beginning of the episode, where they discuss what a slice of life is. Marin and Gojo discuss it. And basically they say a slice of life is about not a whole lot really happens, but it's because not a lot happens that it makes it very enjoyable, warm, and fuzzy. And I feel like that's the most accurate description you can give to a slice of life setting, because when you really take a step back and think about what a slice of life is, it is pretty much about characters just going by their day-to-day lives, enjoying themselves, going to the beach, going to an amusement park, or going to work, going to school, whatever, just doing their day-to-day activities, living life, and we get to kind of peek in and see how their life is in a certain setting. That's pretty much what a slice of life is. And so when the episode kind of brings that up, it's obviously being very self-aware that My Dress Up Darling is a slice of life series. That's exactly what it is. We're following the life of Marin and Gojo. But then we get a scene with Marin and Gojo in a love hotel, and things escalate towards the end, and it's just like, yes, nothing much happens in a slice of life. Yes. Definitely. Okay. But that I think is the joke, one of the jokes of the episode, because they definitely put that in, especially with that progress we got towards the end of the episode. So let's talk about that scene. So I know everybody's going to be giggling and saying that's hilarious, the doujins write themselves, stuff like that. People are going to be saying that while they watch this episode and when the episode comes to a conclusion, but I want to talk about more of the mature factor of that scene and what this really represents for the two characters going forward, and how this can complicate the relationship, or how it could have complicated the relationship. So many are probably saying Marin and Gojo should have kissed, they should have went all the way, etc., probably in that scene. I know there's probably people that are going to say that, and I do think that with the way the tension of the scene was, it probably was going to lead down that direction. I am willing to bet you, if it wasn't, let's say, an anime for anyone to watch, and if it was something else for more of a mature audience, that there probably would have been a scene like that, because there is just no way, with the way the scene was set up, the tension of it, everything, that wasn't going to happen. So let's go on a tangent and a hypothetical on what would have potentially happened if that would have happened. Well, I feel like it would have made the relationship of Gojo and Marin more complicated, and it would have led to a lot of misunderstanding between the two, and potentially ruined the relationship. And hear me out. The reason why I say that is because when you look at Gojo, he is just now really learning what it means to hang out with someone and have a friend, because he's never really had a friend. That's one of the biggest topics of discussion when it comes to My Dress Up Darling. He's never really had someone to hang out with and experience things with, and Marin is his first friend, and obviously eventually going to be, his first and potential last girlfriend. And we know he's learning a lot, he's having all these new experiences, and he's getting to see how life really is. And he doesn't really understand his own self, and let alone Marin's feelings. He doesn't understand his own romantic feelings. There's a lot of things he just doesn't truly understand yet. And if they were to rush into that type of situation and just have that type of complication thrown in, I feel like the relationship would have eventually simmered down into nothing. They would have just been about that, and they no longer would have cared about cosplay, etc. Or at the very least, Gojo might not have cared about cosplay. He would have had a misunderstanding of the situation. It just would have led to a very awkward time between the characters, and I feel like their friendship would fizzle out. They would no longer actually be seeing each other ever again. And I feel like Marin as a character, she's someone that also doesn't really know how to express herself as well, and she has some feelings to really sort out too in terms of how to convey her feelings to Gojo. So I feel like if she would have done that as well, it would have complicated her a bit, and I just don't think that end result would have been good for them. I don't think that would have been a good way to go about the entire scene. So in the end, I think it was a good thing that they actually got interrupted. I know many probably are going to disagree with me with that, but that's my honest thoughts on the matter. But getting into actually what happened, now it didn't happen, I still think that the situation is going to lead to their conversations in the future being very complicated, because how do you not talk about what Gojo did? Like, what happened with Gojo and what happened with Marin? Like, he literally rose her up from growth, pretty much. It's just like, you can't just not talk about that. You cannot just, like, sweep that under the rug. Maybe they can do that, because maybe it's just so embarrassing they just don't want to ever mention it again, but I doubt that's how it's going to go. There's going to be some form of topic where they're going to mention it and just try to discuss it, get their feelings on the table, probably about each other, and I feel like Marin is going to become very well aware of her body, self-aware of her body and Gojo's body, and it's going to lead to a lot more in the future. And I feel like the next episode is really going to tackle that, how the relationship is, how they interact with each other, stuff like that. That's what I get from this episode, because I feel like they need to talk it out. I feel like they definitely need to talk out about what just happened and why they need to explain their feelings for each other and how this is going to complicate things if this continues to happen. But, yeah, it's a very interesting episode. In terms of the mature discussion that you can get from it, I do wonder what will happen. But for now, let's back up and let's talk about more of the comedic stuff as well. So, Marin, as always, being absolutely shameless. Like, with the scene where she's like, oh, if you have a condom in your wallet, it can lead to you being rich or good luck or whatever. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, no, that's definitely not accurate. That's definitely not accurate. And the way she just goes about that is just absolutely hilarious, given the setting of them being in a love hotel. And on top of that, Marin even going to a love hotel for cosplay purposes to begin with is just even more so hilarious. Because when she booked the place for a photo shooting, she had no idea it was a love hotel, but obviously in the end result, it turned out to be, and she's like, well, I can't waste money, I already spent like 6,000 yen, we might as well go in and, spend the money and, do the photo shoot. And obviously they got a lot of good photos for her cosplay, etc., and it turned out really good. And so I just think that the entire situation is kind of like a reverse Juju. Like, if you remember, Juju in the previous episodes got very upset or unsettled by the area of their photo shoot, like it was a creepy place. And in this case, Gojo has something very similar, but in this time, the circumstances are very different. He's just in a love hotel. And I think that that's the funniest part about this, is that just the way he's constantly being very awkward about it, he's just very self-conscious about it, and just everything about that sequence is hilarious, because that's all you think it's gonna be. It's just gonna be funny. That's it. And there's just gonna be more of those little situations with Marin really just, going after Gojo and Gojo getting embarrassed about it. But obviously, we know what happened in the episode. But one of the funniest moments, though, he's like, I can't really get a good picture, so could you get on the bed and all that, get on top, and we can actually take a picture from the character's POV. And the way he just allows Marin to get on top of the bed and basically literally standing above him, I'm just like, oh my goodness, is this actually happening? And obviously Gojo isn't fully aware. He's more in the setting of, I gotta get this picture, and then he realizes afterwards. That's what makes it just so funny. So, I don't know, this episode of My Dress Up Darling is incredibly good. Like, I know many are going to be focusing on the funnier aspects, or like, oh, that should have happened, but I do think that this episode was very, very progressive. Like, it had a lot of progression in it. Like, the story progressed a lot with this because the character's gonna have to talk now. Like, their feelings are going to be there, and I enjoy that, honestly. I'm really happy to see how that's gonna be happening in probably the upcoming episodes. But I guess that's about it. I mean, it's a good episode. Like, the art and animation's good. I mean, voice acting's good as always. The setting was good. Just everything about it. It's a good episode. I honestly cannot wait for more. I really do love this series. It is such a good anime. But okay, guys, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. It does help me out a lot. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click that bell icon down below and subscribe. I love you all. Be safe. Chibi out.